Hello, it's Dr. Joe here of the drjoe.com. So, country after country is going into lockdown. Some of us are still living in countries where there is no lockdown situation as yet, but the potential is there. So, I decided to track down a lady, a very pleasant lady actually, who lives in Italy, who is in a lockdown situation, and I wanted to get a feel of what the lockdown situation is actually like. So, we had a very long chat about the process, what is allowed, what's not allowed, looking after the kids, panic buying, how to entertain yourself, even your mental health as well. And she also gave us a blueprint to plan ahead just in case we find ourselves in that situation in future. So it's a long video, so please grab yourself a nice cup of herbal tea and have a listen.
So yes, ladies and gentlemen, I've got Fiona Lister here. She's actually living in Italy, where there is a lockdown at the moment. And I just want to have a chat with her to see what's actually going on there, what a lockdown actually feels like, because to some of us, we don't know what a lockdown feels like. So we want a first-hand experience of what the situation is like in Italy. So Fiona, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. So were you taken by surprise by the lockdown, or did you know in advance that this was going to happen anyway?
Well, I live in Florence.
Yeah.
Most of the time, although I've also got a house in the country, which is where I'm talking to you from now.
Okay.
And Florence was hit very hard, very fast.
Okay.
It was because it's always crowded and noisy. You could see immediately what was happening because it went very quiet and it emptied.
Okay.
So I watched from about February the 24th, day by day, as the city demonstrated visually what was going on in the country. Had I been here at the house, I wouldn't have noticed any difference because basically the village is quiet, the village is quiet. But a city, you see it graphically. So because I was right.
So sorry, are you in the countryside or in a city?
Because of my husband's job, because I'm married to the Vicar of Florence,
All right,
I spend 3 weeks out of 5 in Florence,
Okay.
and 2 weeks at the house in the country. I'm there,
right.
and I'm here in the countryside now,
Okay.
because I've had to come back because our pet sitter's left. So, I'm here, he's there. So basically, had I been here, I wouldn't have noticed it so much. But because I was there, looking at what was happening out of my window, and because I was writing about it, because I'm a writer, so basically I was writing an article about what it was like.
Okay.
I was very much focused on the day-by-day developments, the news and so on. When the first lockdown happened, which was just the north of Italy, initially it was 11 towns, 50,000 people. Then it became the north of Italy, 16 million people. So from there, I wasn't surprised when the whole country locked down. What I was surprised about was the fact that I went to bed one night and it was all right. And I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, went to check my email, had a message from my friend in the UK going, "I'm so sorry about Italy." And I thought, oh God, what's happened? Checked. And that's when I realized that the whole country had been locked down. So I wasn't surprised because I'd seen everything happen stage by stage, but I was surprised at waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning to find it had happened. But when it happens fast, just to warn you.
Yeah. So the initial plan was for the lockdown to actually happen in the Lombardy area, which is in the north, is it?
In the Lombardy area. That's what happened for a short period. The whole of Lombardy was locked down. So we got used to the idea of what that meant.
Yeah.
And I was writing about that. And then very fast, because I was watching the Prime Minister broadcast and the government broadcasts every night at 6 o'clock, the press conferences, and you could see how it was going because of the numbers accelerating. So you could see what was going to happen.
Right. So the government felt the Lombardy plan wasn't working, so they needed to expand the area of coverage very quickly, and they did that. Right.
Yes, they did.
So how far away are you from the epicenter now, the Lombardy area? Are you pretty close by
No,
mileage?
no, not at all. No, Tuscany is not near the epicenter. The epicenter is in the north of Italy, and we're more central. So I suppose 4 hours away by car, something like that. So, but Tuscany is, I'm not sure of the list of all the regions of Italy where it comes, but it's about 6th most affected, something like that, 5th or 6th most affected, and the numbers have gone up and up. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, what do you know about the numbers in Italy at the moment? The numbers of people affected. Has it leveled off? Or is it still rising? Because sometimes it's difficult to keep up.
I check the numbers every day.
Yeah.
And basically, the numbers yesterday, they were saying that it was starting to level off, but actually it might be leveling off in terms of the number of positive cases, but the numbers of deaths are still rising. So it is going up in all regions. And the thing is, the other regions are now starting to catch up with Lombardy. Lombardy is still by far the most affected region.
Yeah.
But then Emilia-Romagna is the second most affected region. And then the other regions are catching up, I think, because of the asymptomatic nature of the coronavirus, that there are probably people affected who don't know yet. In my own little area, because I'm very focused obviously on Florence numbers because my husband's there, and numbers here because I'm here. And I think in Florence there are over 150 people affected now, and here in this area there are about 47. So you can see it expanding and expanding, but there have been no deaths so far here. And I think Tuscany, I'm not quite sure how many deaths there have been, but it certainly doesn't match Lombardy.
It's something that, it's taking a lot of countries by surprise. So, so tell me something. What is the general mood of the country? I know that, there are political, economic, and, social ramifications, but what's the general mood? Is it very low?
Because we're 3 weeks ahead of everybody else, people have had a slight chance to adjust. How you can adjust to this kind of bizarre, surreal situation in itself is another question. But you do go through what I've described, I think, as stages of. It's almost like the stages of grief. I know that it's controversial. The stages of grief aren't actually stages, according to some people. But this idea of the initial disbelief. Yeah. Followed by anger, blah, blah. I think as a country, we've gone through that. And the I can't believe it, oh my God part has passed. And people are adjusting very quickly to the lockdown. And they're coping in their own ways. Like there are some fantastic videos of people singing on the balconies. I don't know if you've seen those.
Okay, no, I haven't.
That was just quite amazing that there was this sort of crowd, not a crowdsourcing thing, a flash mob idea that because people couldn't go outside, and a lot of Italians live in apartment buildings with balconies, should go out at 6 o'clock at night and sing. So there are videos all over social media of different people singing, making noise. People are hanging out Italian flags. The Air Force flew over with the flag. We've had people like here in the village. I don't think they caught on to the 6 o'clock thing because I didn't hear it. But yesterday, somebody was playing a trumpet, playing the national anthem on the trumpet, just on their own, because of course you can't go out and meet people. All the shop assistants in the Florence Co-op supermarket all stopped work and sang the national anthem with their masks on for all the customers. I mean, there's this idea of we're in it together. And Italians being Italians, I mean, it's the worst possible thing for Italians not to be able to kind of touch each other, hug each other. This social distancing is terrible for anyone, but it's really terrible for them. But they're taking it very seriously. But at the same time, trying to express their sort of natural vivacity, ebullience, whatever, music, fun, this solidarity between balconies. So it's nice. It's lovely actually to see that.
So there's been some sort of creativity on the part of Italians to
absolutely
to keep what should be something depressing to lift the spirits up, basically.
Absolutely right. And it's very important to do that, and it's very important to laugh. There is another photo going around social media of a guy in Rome. It's kind of quite portly gentleman in Rome, and he's made a huge, almost like a donut-shaped skirt, which is 1 meter wide, and he's attached it to his body with ropes. And basically, he can walk around at a safe distance from everybody else. So, you know, people are having fun with it as well, because it is pretty dire and pretty awful to have basically your freedom taken away, and it is very serious. I mean, you can't even go to the next town without filling in a form and you risk being stopped by the police. So it is very serious. You're not supposed to even go for a walk with another person. You can go for a short walk near your house on your own. So, you know, it is a dire situation, but they're managing to get some kind of fun out of it where they can. How
is the government actually policing? We're talking about 16 million people or thereabout.
60 million,
because you have a situation where, you know, human beings are different. Some of us are compliant and others not so much. And so I was wondering how the government has been able to police the situation to make sure that because if there's no cooperation on the part of everybody, then the plan will not work. So how is the policing actually getting on? How is it happening?
I can only talk about what I've read about and what I've seen. And people are taking it very seriously. Initially, when they started locking down the 11 towns at the very beginning of all this, so we're talking about those 11 towns in Lombardy, and the rest of Lombardy was free. People were starting to kind of break it, like there was a report about some families, I think it was 16 families who'd escaped to a nearby campsite and were pretending that they were tourists, and they all got reported by other people going, you know, you're not tourists, you've escaped from the 11 town area, you shouldn't have done that. So that was the initial thing. Now it is super serious, and so you have to, as I said, there's a form to fill in, which everyone can download on their phone or from a website. You're supposed to have that form if you go from town to town. Police are cracking down. You get fined.
So hang on a minute. So when you complete the form, what do you do with it? You send it off online, or?
No, you have to carry it with you if you're going outside your region. I mean, people are very much being encouraged to only go out, and I don't mean even only go out from town to town, only go out from your house if you absolutely have to. So absolutely have to would be, initially it was for work, or for going to the pharmacy or going food shopping. Those are kind of or health reasons, like you have
you got to go see the doctor or
something like that. But really that the slogan is io rimango, io sto a casa, io sono a casa, which means I'm at home, and everyone's being encouraged to do this. And if you don't join in, you're being kind of unneighbourly, and people will report you locally. I haven't seen it myself. I haven't been stopped by the police myself, because I've only sort of ventured out twice to a supermarket, which is very local. But I've heard stories, people are being stopped, they're being fined. There was a shop in the nearby city that had opened, not a food or a pharmacy. He'd opened twice, and the second time they took his license away.
So basically, he wasn't a trader who was selling necessities, you know, not groceries or medications. So he opened his shop. So basically, he was breaking the code.
Breaking the code. And there are police cars touring around in the main cities, at the railway stations and places where people would leave. For example, in Florence railway station, there are armed police, and they will check your papers. And if you don't have a good reason, you go home. But the thing is, people are complying very much out of fear. Which is something else I've written about, the whole fear angle to this, and how you can actually make a whole population behave because of the fear of contaminating your neighbour, letting the side down, all that kind of thing. As you say, people are different. And how on earth would you control a whole nation unless you had a very good motive to do so? Basically, people are scared. They're scared of getting the virus. They're scared that they will give the virus to somebody else.
Okay.
They're scared that they will be unneighbourly and let the side down by going out. So people are reporting each other. I mean, if there's somebody going out, they'll get reported.
Okay.
As far as I can see in this area.
So in a way, you're all looking out for each other.
Yeah.
Because that works.
It does work.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But everyone is really following it. I was amazed at, the social distancing, the queuing up. You're a metre from everybody else. If you even go out into the street, they're walking along the other side of the road, will kind of move around you so that they keep this distance. So people are taking it really seriously. There's people wearing masks all the time. Announcements in the supermarket, we're opening as normal, but please maintain your distance. Please get out, do your shopping as quickly as you can. You're only allowed, if you do your shopping, to have one person in the family go out. Okay. You can't go shopping with your family.
What I wanted you to do for me is to paint a picture, a narrative of what actually happens if I needed to go shopping to buy something essential.
Go outside to different shops, like I go to some shops 10 miles away, 10 kilometers away, because I need certain things from those shops, but I don't have to do it. So that's what people are being encouraged to do. You don't have to go to this bigger supermarket. You can go to the one that's in your own little town, your own municipality, what they call comune here.
Yeah.
And if you're outside crossing communes, I suppose it's a little bit like crossing counties, but it's much smaller. You need to have a good reason. Why can't you go to your local shop?
Okay.
That's the sort of thing. So I can go shopping like I did yesterday in my car.
Yeah.
I saw the police, but they watched me and they knew I was going into the supermarket because I turned into the local shop car park. So there was no problem. Yeah. Did my shopping, but I had to. I went at lunchtime, so I knew there weren't many people there. But I drove past the other day because I had to go to the post office and I was going to call in at the supermarket and I didn't because there was a queue right into the street.
Okay.
With people 1 metre apart waiting to be let into the shop, the supermarket, one by one. So I thought, no, I'll go back when it's quieter, which I did. And there were about 8 people in there. So I did my shopping as normal.
Right. So the idea is that if I'm going to my local shop, I'm allowed to go if I need to buy something. Mm-hmm. But when I get there, I have to, presumably there's probably going to be a queue of people during the daytime.
Yes.
And the rule is that you've got to keep a certain distance.
Yes.
Which is, what is it? Is it a meter? Mm-hmm. A distance of about a meter from each other. So you're waiting in the queue. Is there somebody at the entrance, the shop entrance, who lets people in?
Yes.
Right. So there's that element of control as well.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And in the shops, how am I expected to behave once I get inside the shop?
You're meant to do your shopping as quickly as you can.
Okay.
You're meant to maintain a 1 metre distance at all times from other people. So, I mean, it was a bit of a dance yesterday, even though there weren't very many people in there, but they are controlling the numbers anyway.
Okay.
There wasn't a queue when I went in because I went at lunchtime, and this is a shop that's unusually in our area open all day because they usually close at lunchtime in this particular part of Italy. And then
do they have siestas there? Do you have siestas in?
Siestas. Well, in the smaller towns, yes, they do. So basically, they don't actually have a siesta, but they sort of close at about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they open again at 4. But this particular supermarket, thank goodness, opens all day. So I go when it's quiet, when everyone else is eating. And then we kind of did a bit of a dance around the shop, because I went up an aisle, and normally you see somebody coming down an aisle, you pass in the aisle, it's not an issue. But they saw me, I saw them, we kind of moved around so that we always kept this 1 metre distance. I mean, and everybody's doing it. It's incredible how quickly you adapt to a quite extraordinary way of behaving, really.
Yeah, it's a complete change of behaviour.
100%, particularly for such a tactile nation.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that because yes, the Italians are quite tactile. But if you are crossing municipalities, then of course that's when the form becomes relevant.
That's right.
You take it to the police station and say, "Well,
no, they'll stop you."
Oh, they stop you.
They won't stop everybody, so there's a chance that you can make it. For example, it's quite a funny story. I've got alpacas, and I was a bit worried about their hay.
Yeah.
So I called up the guy who delivers their hay.
Yeah.
And it was like I was doing a drug deal, not that I know that. But it was like me going, how many bales can you give me?
Yeah.
And he said, well, I think we better restrict it to 8 because anything more than 8 will cause suspicion. So I said, okay, well, let's make it 8 then. And I said, when can you bring them? And he said, I'll do it under cover of darkness because there's less chance of being stopped. This is the kind of conversation you have in this bizarre. And he came with the bales of hay. He actually managed to get 10, wearing a mask.
Okay.
Wearing a mask, and I was trying to pay him.
Yeah.
And I think he didn't want to take the money because there's this whole idea that cash also carries the virus.
Yes. Yes.
And he was kind of, no, don't pay me. And I said, no, I really want to. And I insisted, and I did. He said, pay me next time, but I paid him. And he was very, didn't want to stop, didn't want to chat.
Yeah. It was very businesslike.
Very businesslike, and absolutely let's do the deal.
Yeah.
Under cover of darkness, and he did. He arrived in the dark.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to unload hay in the dark is quite hard, but anyway, there we are. So that's just typical. So people are concerned that they will get stopped by the police and don't have a good reason.
So there are random stops on the road by police. Anybody in a car, the police have a right to actually stop you to find out.
Well, they do anyway. I mean, they do anyway stop you in Italy because there are police who stop the car and they don't have to have a reason. They'll just check your papers.
Okay.
So that's kind of
a normal practice. Yeah.
People are not surprised to be stopped by the police, but it doesn't happen that often. But it does happen. But no, people are agreeing with it. It's not something that people are not agreeing with. They're doing it because they know they have to. The whole, we're all in it together. We don't want this virus. Everyone's got to help each other. This whole message is very much being put across.
And I suppose, the number of deaths that are actually happening is enough to make people understand the reason why this is happening and for them to comply. Because if you need any motivation, that's it. You can't have any more motivation than the number of deaths that are happening in Italy right now. So
that's right. And also not just the deaths, but also the fear of perhaps being hospitalized or whatever. And for example, when I came back from Florence, I had to kind of come back very quickly because my pet sitters, who were Russian, had to escape back to Russia before the lockdown. They didn't quite make it and they had to do all kinds of maneuvers to get home, but anyway, they did. So I came back quite quickly. The train that I'd normally get wasn't running, so I had to get a taxi. And the taxi driver was in a mask. He, apologized for the way he was looking. He said, look, I've got an elderly mother and I've got a little boy. And I said, it's fine, it's okay, and he wore the mask all the way. But I thought, poor guy, this is how people think, because the family is very, very important, and they're all living together or visiting or very nearby in this area. People are concerned for children. They don't quite understand. There's all kinds of rumours going around. Do children get it? So-and-so's baby might have got it and all this stuff. And they're elderly relatives, so... That's the worry.
How the ladies with younger kids, younger families, how are they keeping the kids entertained? I know you probably don't have a personal experience with that.
The one thing that's been happening is that, like in China, they had this movement in China, apparently Wuhan, that children would go around and leave notes anonymously saying it'll all be okay. In Italy, they've started doing this as well. So you can download pictures for your children, you colour them in, and it's in Italian. I've actually got one here, which is tutto andrà bene or andrà tutto bene, which means everything will be okay. And they're encouraged to sort of do that and to put those on shop windows or when there's nobody around, obviously. Talking to children about this is actually very important because they're scared. And they're worried for their grandparents. That's the thing, or their older relatives, because they know old people get hit harder. So there's been this whole thing about how to talk to children, what to do, how to explain things. But it must be very difficult. I mean, I'm lucky here. I have a house and a garden. A lot of people don't. They're in apartments. What you do with small children...
Yeah, in an apartment. Yeah.
because parents are also off work. There's stress there because a load of people have been laid off work. The economic implications of this are just catastrophic.
Can imagine,
I can't tell you how awful that is.
Yeah.
So you're all right if you normally telecommute, your kids are used to it. But if you've, say, lost your job, plus you're dealing with young children who normally would go and see their friends, but they can't go and see their friends because they're not allowed to. They can't go out because they're not allowed to go to the park or to play or anything like that. What do you do? And people have got to, if you've got a chance, and maybe in the UK, because I'm sure this is going to be happening soon in the UK, if you've got a chance to plan ahead as to what you're going to do and how you're going to entertain your children, then you start planning for it now. Because it's serious.
It's not easy keeping children entertained because they get bored very easily. And you have to explain to them why, because they know that school is supposed to be in session now, and you have to explain to them why they're not going to school. They want to know why. And kids are quite curious.
Kids too. I mean, teenagers, teenagers who are going out and who want to be with their friends and they can't be, that's another whole area. In the north of Italy, before the big lockdown, the whole country lockdown, there was a case of a group who just all went up to a ski resort and had a big party. And half of you thinks, I actually don't blame them. It's a kind of eat, drink and be merry and this is not serious. And of course they got roundly condemned. Even the Prime Minister mentioned it and said they will be named and shamed and then promptly locked down Lombardy. So that's the kind of thing that's happening, and teenagers having parties and stuff, they're just being teenagers, but you can't do that either. So yes, it affects every single aspect of your life.
It does. And so I know the tourism industry has been completely decimated by this because this is their bread and butter, and if they cannot allow tourists in, then I don't know what they're going to do. You don't happen to know anybody working in the tourism industry who...
Yes.
You do.
I live in a city which is dominated by tourism. That's how I knew things were going very, very badly wrong, because we saw it ahead of everybody else because of living in this place that is absolutely reliant on tourism. And you saw fewer and fewer people. Hotels started closing, restaurants started closing before the lockdown.
All right.
Because tourists were panicking and saying, oh, Italy's got the coronavirus. They didn't understand that the north of Italy and Tuscany were two completely different places. Obviously is in Tuscany. And Rome, of course, again, completely different, miles away from the epicenter. But even right at the beginning, people were cancelling. And our church, because I said my husband's the chaplain of St Mark's English Church in Florence, also has apartments. That's how we get no money from the Church of England. So it's all renting apartments, donations, that kind of thing. Cancellations started coming in left, right and centre. There are a lot of American universities in Florence. Students there spend money and so on. All the university students left. The British university students followed. People closed down. There were no restaurants. Before, you weren't allowed to open your restaurant because you're not allowed to have a bar or a restaurant open now anyway. But before that, people had to close because there were no customers. No customers. And then it wasn't just the restaurants, it's people who work in the restaurants. And then that affects taxi drivers, people spending their money. There's no money to spend. Shops, nobody in there. It's a catastrophic effect.
It's got a ripple effect, yes.
Huge and very fast. We have a lovely housekeeper, cleaner, who works for the church. I've had to lay her off. And she said, I've got no money, what am I supposed to do? It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. The government have started rolling out measures now. And so there's something that started, there was a kind of decree yesterday where they've advocated giving a certain amount of money to different people. You have to go through your solicitor your accountant to get access to this. If you're a business owner, what you can do for your employees and so on. They're going to possibly suspend utility bills. But people are petrified because they've got mortgages, they've got fuel bills, and there is no work for them, particularly in tourism, but in all kinds of knock-on things. I mean, one example is which started very early on, before any of the lockdowns, apart from the 11 towns, flowers, selling fresh flowers. They couldn't make it through the lockdown to get their flowers in the north of Italy. So they were in trouble. So you name an industry, they're affected by it. It's really been disastrous. And I dread to think of the fallout, not from the virus, which is, unknown yet. Economically, this is catastrophic.
As I understand it, I don't think the benefit system in Italy is as robust as what we have in the UK. So I would imagine that they're going to feel it a lot more there.
Yes, which is why I think the government are taking these measures, and they've changed them, or they're adding to them every day, because I phoned the church accountants yesterday to see what we could do for this lady I've had to lay off. And he was clearly reeling from being bombarded by phone calls from people going, what do we do? So just saying, look, I'll sort it out, we'll sort it out, but it's going to be many months. So I don't know what people are going to do.
It's a complete uncharted territory. There's no doubt about that.
Surreal. But you get over quite fast, as I said, this idea, this is like a film. I'm living in a disaster movie. I can't believe it. That goes. But one thing I did want to mention is that for people to be prepared, which is not talked about a lot, is your own mood swings.
Very important.
I have gone through every emotion, often in one day. And I know now that that's kind of normal, because you just don't know what to think. I mean, I go from complete panic sometimes to thinking, oh no, it's all a fuss about nothing. But these mood swings are related directly to the fact you're in a completely unknown situation. Everybody is. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody really knows the true situation. And there's nothing you can cling on to. There's no precedent for this. Countries shutting down. I mean, who would have thought it? And because we're 3 weeks ahead of everybody else, we're slightly more prepared. I feel slightly more prepared than, say, people in the UK now, who are starting to think this is actually all a bit worrying. Yeah, it is. And you have to take control of your own brain and mood, because that's the control that you do have. And you can get completely obsessed with coronavirus and look to your heart's content on the internet at every possible bit of information, from, has it come from Mars, aliens running us and destroying us, to, the government facts, everything in between. You can really indulge yourself to your heart's content, and it is so bad for you. The
internet as it is, there's no shortage of conspiracy theories, is there? So
absolutely, yes.
which that doesn't help the situation at all.
No, it's like a drug. I mean, already we know that people get digitally addicted. And this is like giving an addict a reason to be addicted, because it's like, it's okay because I'm looking up coronavirus, so that's allowed. Yes, okay, understand why you're doing that, but it can become obsessive. And that will bring you right down. So you have to take back control of your brain and say, right, I'm going to check the figures maybe in the morning and the evening. If there's anything in my area that's going to be urgent, I'll find out anyway from a friend texting or phoning or something. Other than that, I am going to, and then do stuff you normally do. It's very hard because you're desperately trying to get back to the computer to look at the latest thing to see if somehow you can get a handle on it, and you can't. So you've just got to accept you can't and do things that you can, being mindful, play with the dog, go for a walk if you can, do some gardening, watch a comedy film, have a laugh.
You need distractions, essentially. That's what you're saying. You need distractions. Absolutely. Otherwise, you become too obsessed.
You completely become obsessed. And I mean, you really can become obsessed. I've got friends who are, petrified because they're reading every single thing about it. And you get information overload, but you also, it doesn't help. it doesn't help. What that one more article that you have to read, it doesn't help. It's just, you have to take back control. You look at what you're doing and say, is this actually helping me? No, it isn't. It's getting you in a complete panic. So go and do something normal, like, as I say, cutting the grass or going for a walk or something.
No, you're completely right, because you need to ask yourself, yes, I need to be aware of what's going on. But before you do, you got to ask yourself the question, is this helping me?
Yeah.
Because if it is not, if it's going to get you deeper into the obsession mode, then it's rather unhelpful. And it will make sense to probably say, no, I'll look at it tomorrow morning. There's...
Yeah.
Because there is... we talk about fear of missing out. The young ones, they talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. There's also, the opposite, which is the joy of missing out.
Yes, I've heard of that as well. That's
JOMO.
Right. Yeah, that's right. The problem is, if you're the kind of person, because I think not everyone is the same, as we know.
Yeah.
And if you're the kind of person that likes feeling in control of situations, this is going to have you all over the place, because you have no control over anything.
Yeah.
So what can you control? You can control, as I said, your own brain, what you're watching. But if you have to do kind of coronavirus related things, then maybe do something constructive, like plan a menu for 2 weeks and what you really need as essentials. Do your control thing in a way that you can do. If you want to write statistics down, maybe make a chart of, the things in your area or something, the people that you can contact. Maybe there are old people nearby you can, like here, for example, there's shopping that people do for old people. They'll go and do their shopping for them, deliver for them. Is there something you can do that satisfies that control freakery in you?
Yeah.
Because you can't control anything else.
Yes.
And it will drive a control freak, talking about myself here, crazy.
Yeah.
So you have to do things you can control.
Yes. No, it helps. You just touched on what I was going to ask next, which is how they're helping the elderly. I know the Italians, like you said, they tend to live 2-3 generations tend to live together in the same household, so that helps. But what about elderly people who are not living with the younger generation? How is the system helping them?
Well, a lot of shops, food shops, will arrange deliveries for older people. Like in our town here, they know all the old people. So as I told you, I was shopping yesterday, and in the middle of my checking out, there was a phone call to the cashier, who clearly knew who it was. It was obviously an old person. And they went, don't worry, it's okay, we'll organise. Okay, I'll phone you back in a minute and you can give me your order. And then shouted over to the next cashier, that was whoever, Giuseppe or whatever, who wants the food. So, okay. So they're actually, each sort of shop is organising that kind of thing for older people.
Okay, good.
And also you're getting groups, voluntary groups, who are organising things for people who can't get out. They'll deliver your pharmacy stuff, drugs and
very important.
Very important. And of course, there is always the risk that you're either bringing the virus to somebody or that they'll give it to you. But people are kind of very sensible about that. There's always hand sanitizer stuff and washing your hands and all of those things. So with those precautions in mind, people will do the deliveries to older people or whatever. So people look out for each other here. So that is definitely happening.
It's just going crazy here in the UK, Australia, and even the US now. The panic buying business, because there's a lot of panic buying. I would want you to say something to reassure people that there really is no need for panic buying, because the shops are open. All it means is you need some permission to go to the shops. So if you really need something desperately, if you go into lockdown, if your city goes into lockdown, you can still do some shopping, albeit it might take you a little bit longer because you've got to be in a queue and you got to keep that distance away from the next person. But yeah, I just wanted to say something reassuring to people that there is no need to stockpile 200 rolls of tissue paper in your, you know,
Yeah,
because in a way you're also depriving the next person from having access. You know, when you buy so much.
That's right. Well, there are two things to say about this. The first thing is that it's in the country's interest to keep the food supply chain open. So basically everyone is reassured. Even when you're in the shop, you're being told this shop is keeping normal hours, we're open all the time.
Excellent.
Please don't
Excellent.
worry.
Yeah.
So there isn't an issue with food. And the only issue, if there's a shortage, like I wanted to buy some frozen beans, not because I was panic buying, because I wanted to buy some frozen beans.
Good.
They didn't have any, so clearly people had all bought a lot of beans
and broken the supply chain there.
Yeah, you know. But other than that, the shop looked perfectly normal. They hadn't run out of bread, nothing. You know, it looked normal.
Good.
So that's a good thing. But the other side of it is the reason for people buying in bulk, not the loo roll thing, totally don't get that. But buying in bulk is because they're encouraging you not to go out.
Okay.
So it's not that things are running out, it's that you only want to go to the shops maybe, well, Italians go to the shops every day.
Normally, because they want to eat fresh.
And also social life, you know, you have a chat, you know, all of this.
Yeah.
That's still going on to an extent, but Brits like me are doing things like going once a week.
Yes.
Because that way I'm not breaking the curfew, but I'm not risking going out too many times, because obviously the more you go out,
the higher the chances of picking up the virus.
I don't buy into that because I don't think there is a risk going out. But anyway, the idea is not that you'll run out of food, but that you should be going out in the minimum time. So I made sure I had pet food, for example, because I've got dogs, cats, alpacas and stuff. So I wanted to make sure before me that they were okay.
Okay.
So I did go, luckily, to the shop that's outside the town before they had the big lockdown. So well, no, not before they had the big lockdown. It was still the big lockdown, but they hadn't brought the form thing into practice yet. So I managed to get stuff for the animals that I couldn't normally get here and come back. So that made me feel better that I had stock for everybody.
And so the message there is that the shops are open. You know, the grocery shops are open. The pharmacies are open.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are other specialist shops open, like I think there's tobacconists are open. I'm not sure.
Oh, they're looking after the smokers, are they?
That's right.
So that's good. I mean, shops are open. So that's a very nice message to talk about there. So you talked about mental health, because that's very important. Looking after your own mental health,
hugely important,
because this is uncharted territory, and it does have ramifications on one's mental health, especially when you're confined to 4 walls for weeks. It's bound to get you down, and people are also trying to cheer themselves up in all sorts of ways, either singularly or with a little bit of distance between them, but they manage to. I suppose the internet is also helping as well, with maybe some funny videos being sent around. So that helps. So to summarize, I know this is. I'm probably just pinning you down. I'm putting you on the spot, just off the top of your head. What are the steps that people need to take? Because I think some of us would probably know that there's going to be a lockdown. We may have an inclination that it's going to happen. So just give us a rough idea of what we should do, a plan, if you like, in advance. So what should we do? So we just round up with that,
Yeah, I have written about this actually.
Okay, you have.
I've written an article, Life After Lockdown, with some suggestions in it.
Okay, good.
But basically, you can prepare mentally, and I think that's important, that you know that you're going to be going through, and people who are living with you in your house, your kids, older people, whatever, you know that you're going to be going through all these different moods. So that is normal.
Good.
Even though you're angry, you're frustrated, you're upset, you're fine, you're angry again. All of those things you will go through. So be prepared for that. Be sympathetic to other people. Good. You need to plan things like what are you going to do with your children when they're not at school, when you can't go out. You can go out for walks. You're not literally not allowed out of the building. You can go out. And obviously parents and children can go, or mother and child, father and child could go out, but you're not supposed to congregate in a group.
Right. So a family unit can go out.
A family unit
can go for a walk.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, for a walk.
Yeah.
As long as you're avoiding what they don't want is a group meeting in the street. So a family unit meets family units, and you've got 6 people. No. So you keep your distance, but you can go outside.
Okay.
So how are you going to do that? Plan for that. Don't think, oh, that won't happen. Yes, it will. These things happen so fast. They can happen overnight. Look at Spain. I mean, Spain, 1 minute's fine. The next minute, lockdown 100%. People scrabbling around, not able to get out of the country. So it happens fast. So plan for everything. It will happen. If it doesn't, lovely, good. But plan that it will happen. So what are you going to do with your kids? How are you going to explain to them what's going on? What are you going to do yourself for money? Do you have a nest egg? Do you have money that you can keep going on for a little while if you can't work? How are you going to work from home? Is your internet all set up? What about food? Don't panic buy, but what kind of things do you need to get in that, for example, if you suddenly couldn't receive stuff by post or from Amazon or whatever, is there stuff that you can get? Animal food, how are you going to look after your pets?
Okay.
What supplies do you need? Does your dog need a special heart medicine? Can you get some of that from the vet? Is that going to be open? The lines of communication going to be open there? So plan for being inside more than outside.
Okay.
Have you got a car full of petrol? That kind of thing. If you have an elderly person, how can you reassure them? How are you going to keep in touch with them? Is their internet all set up? Have they got a phone that they can use properly? You can always call people. So it's really looking at every aspect of your life. And as I say, I've written about this, and maybe, I don't know if you can give a link.
You send me the link. I'll put it below this video.
And then you can read about what you can do and contact people who you trust, calm friends, not the panicky friends, the calm friends, and just see together what you could do as a group to say cheer people up.
Yes.
Music is a great way of doing it. It's okay to laugh.
Yes. Laughter is the best medicine, I always say. Yeah. Very important.
So, to have comedy video, watch a video and then talk about it afterwards or something. Even on the internet, you can do that. Get in touch with your family and friends overseas. That's one great thing that this has done, is bringing a family together. Friends together. You can have Skype conference calls or whatever, do that. And try and look for the positive side of it, because everything has a positive side.
Yes,
I mean, one interesting thing I heard yesterday, which is wonderful, really, is in Venice, locked down. No tourists, so that's bad. But the canals, for the first time, are completely clear. You can see fish in the canals.
There you go.
They've never seen fish. They've never seen the water this clear. There are all kinds of positive things that come out of it. Another thing I heard was that normally in Italy there are 10 road traffic accidents a day.
Interesting.
Because the traffic has halved.
Yeah.
Saying, well, that in theory means that 5 people a day are now alive that wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So there's always a positive spin on the things. There's always a way of being grateful for what you have.
Yes.
And I think you've got to really work at doing that. Keep a diary. Let's have a family diary. Let's make a scrapbook, not coronavirus scrapbook, but, let's call it something else.
That would be a bit negative, yes.
That would be like not good. But, keep a family scrapbook, or make a diary, or make some music together or something, but turn it into a positive thing, because it basically isn't very nice. So you have got to, with your brain, turn it into something that you can see a silver lining. And
gets really creative.
People, when you dig deep, it's amazing how deep you can go and what you can bring out of yourself and the people around you in this kind of crisis situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is a crisis that will actually show how resourceful we can be as human beings.
Absolutely.
So it does help a lot.
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Fiona, for your time. Send me the link to your article, and I'll put it below the video. And nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting to you too.
I wish you all the best. We'll be in touch. Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Take care. All right. I'm really grateful for this. All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So there you go. Hopefully you got some value from this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, like the video. Please share this video with everybody, really, because anybody can find themselves in a lockdown situation. Now subscribe if you haven't. Please leave your comments down below as usual. I think that's about it. Until next time, well, this is Dr. Joe signing out.